I woke up to knocking at 6 a.m. My heart skipped a beat, and I froze in the dark, wondering who on earth could be at my door at this hour. The apartment was mine, or at least I thought it was. The soft morning light filtered through my blinds, and there he was, my landlord, Mr. Thompson, looking impatient and awkward, with a stranger standing silently behind him. My stomach dropped, my brain raced, and I suddenly felt like I had walked into someone else's life entirely. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. I rubbed my eyes and tried to make sense of it. Mr. Thompson, a gruff man in his late 50s with a permanent scowl etched into his face, cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, who are you?" he asked, gesturing toward me as if I were the intruder. I blinked, my voice caught somewhere between disbelief and panic. I'm Emma Carter. I live here. Here's my lease." I shoved the folded paper toward him, hoping it would solve the confusion. But instead, he barely glanced at it. His attention was elsewhere, on the stranger behind him. She smiled at me. Confident. Calm. Familiar, in a way that made my skin crawl. "Your mom gave me the keys," she said, as if this explained everything. But it didn't. My mom? I hadn't heard a word from her. I hadn't agreed to this. And now someone was standing in my living room, or at least trying to make it hers. My pulse quickened. How could this be happening? How could my life be turned upside down before sunrise? I took a step back, my mind spinning. This apartment was supposed to be my safe space. The one place I had control over. And yet here I was, being told, indirectly, that it wasn't mine anymore. The stranger moved slightly, arranging herself as if she belonged. Mr. Thompson shuffled awkwardly, muttering something about paperwork, clearly uncomfortable. And I was left frozen in shock, staring at the two people who had somehow hijacked my morning. Have you ever felt that sudden, gut-dropping realization that your life is no longer your own? That the rules you thought were solid were never really there? That was me at that moment. My apartment, my lease, my life, all of it felt fragile, teetering on the edge of chaos. And just as I was about to demand answers, the stranger tilted her head, smiled, and said, "I've been living here since last week." My jaw dropped. What came next would change everything, and no one saw it coming. I thought my heart would stop. My apartment wasn't mine. It felt impossible, absurd, like some cruel joke played on me while I slept. I held my lease in my trembling hands, staring at Mr. Thompson as if sheer willpower could make him see the truth. But he just squinted, shuffled his papers, and muttered something about "your mom's instructions" before turning back to the stranger, Mia. She was casually leaning against my kitchen counter, sipping a cup of coffee, as though she had been here all her life. I wanted to scream. I wanted to bolt. But instead, I froze, my mind scrambling to piece together what was happening. You can't just," I began, but the words died in my throat. Mia didn't even flinch. She smiled again, the kind of smile that made me feel like I was intruding on her world. I didn't recognize her, didn't trust her, and yet she was claiming a space I had worked so hard to call my own. "Your mom thought this would be okay," Mr. Thompson said finally, as if that explained everything. I stared at him, aghast. My mom? Why? How? What possible reason could she have to give away the keys to my home without telling me? My chest tightened. Everything in me wanted to demand answers, to confront her and pull the truth out, but there was Mia, calm, confident, and completely unbothered. She began unpacking a few boxes she apparently brought with her, humming softly, like a cheerful invader marking her territory. I took a slow, shaky breath and tried to ground myself. My mind raced with questions. Did my mom know Mia personally? Was this some sort of helpful plan gone wrong? And why hadn't anyone bothered to tell me? The thought that my safe space had been quietly hijacked while I slept was terrifying. And yet, I also couldn't shake a creeping, absurd curiosity. Who was this woman? What was her story? And why did she seem so familiar? I wanted to call my mom, to demand answers. My phone trembled in my hand as I dialed her number, heart hammering, expecting a quick explanation. But it went straight to voicemail. "Hey, sweetie, call me back." she said in her cheerful voice, completely oblivious to the chaos she had unleashed. My eyes darted back to Mia. She noticed the call, and the tiniest smirk played on her lips. For a moment, I felt trapped in a nightmare. My home was no longer mine, my landlord seemed powerless or complicit, and my mother was conveniently unreachable. And the strangest, most terrifying thought crept in: maybe Mia had been living here all along, watching, waiting. I had no idea how long this had been going on. What had my mom done behind my back, and why? And just as I was about to demand Mia leave, she looked me straight in the eyes and said, "By the way, I've been living here for a week already." I froze. My heart sank. But what came next would push me further into confusion, betrayal, and a reality I wasn't prepared for, and it was all because of one question: why would my mom do this to me? I finally reached my mom, but the answer only made things worse. My fingers hovered over the phone as I left a shaky voicemail, trying to keep my voice steady, trying to demand explanations without breaking down. "Mom, why would you give someone else my keys? Why would you?" I stopped, realizing that no amount of shouting or reasoning would make her appear any faster. And that was exactly what made this feel like a trap. I was alone with Mia, with Mr. Thompson awkwardly hovering, and no adult in my corner to justify the chaos. The truth started to trickle in piece by piece. Mia wasn't just some random intruder. She was connected to my mom in ways I hadn't expected. Apparently, my mom thought I needed help, someone responsible, friendly, and supportive to live with temporarily. Mia had experience with exactly the kind of organization and adulting that my mom insisted I was failing at. I laughed bitterly at that thought. Me? Failing? Sure, I sometimes forgot to pay a bill or leave a note about groceries, but I was managing my life. Or at least, I thought I was. Mia, oblivious to my mounting fury, offered to show me the improvements she had already made. Closet reorganizations, labeled pantry items, a perfectly aligned bookshelf. Her calmness made me feel small, like a guest in my own home. "Your mom said you'd appreciate it eventually," she said lightly, as if that solved everything. I wanted to scream. I wanted to throw things. I wanted to disappear from this apartment that was suddenly unrecognizable. Mr. Thompson cleared his throat again, adding a nervous comment about lease agreements and temporary arrangements. But his words barely registered. My mind was spiraling. How could my mother, the person I trusted most in the world, hand over my home to a stranger without even a warning? And why did she trust Mia so implicitly? Had she known her longer than I realized? Questions piled on questions, each one twisting the knife of betrayal a little deeper. I paced, heart racing, trying to make sense of it all. What was Mia's real motive? Was she really there to help, or was there another agenda lurking behind that calm smile? And why had she been living here for a week without telling me? The audacity, the calmness, the sheer boldness of it all, it was almost unbelievable. Almost. And then came the final twist of the morning. Mia leaned casually against the counter, watching me with an unsettling air of amusement. "By the way," she said, almost innocently, "your mom set everything up last week. I've been living here this whole time, getting to know your routines, your habits, even your favorite coffee mug." My stomach dropped. I hadn't just been betrayed by my mom, I'd been observed. Studied. Someone had quietly learned every corner of my life without my knowledge. I stared at her, frozen, heart hammering, mind spinning. How could this be happening? What did my mom expect would happen when I walked into my own apartment and found a stranger living my life? I wanted to run, but my legs refused. And then I realized, the real answers, the truth behind my mother's actions and Mia's presence, were coming, but they weren't coming easily. It was time to find out exactly why this was happening. My apartment, my sanctuary, my space of comfort, had become a battlefield, and I was caught in the middle. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my shaking hands, and faced both Mia and Mr. Thompson. "I need answers," I said, voice firmer than I expected. "Now." Mia tilted her head, smiling faintly, as if she had been waiting for this confrontation all along. "I'm not here to hurt you," she said calmly. "Your mom asked me to move in temporarily. She thought it would help both of us." Temporarily. The word stung, but there was something else underneath, something rehearsed, carefully measured. My pulse quickened as I tried to process the layers of betrayal, confusion, and planning. Mr. Thompson shuffled nervously, finally admitting what I suspected all along. Emma, your mom insisted. She said she thought you'd be okay with a roommate for a short time. I didn't think it would be a problem. His voice trailed off, and for the first time, I saw a flicker of guilt. The authority figure who had always seemed unapproachable, almost cold, looked helpless. But helpless or not, he hadn't stopped this from happening. My mind raced. Mia's calm demeanor made it almost impossible to be angry at her completely, but my apartment had been infiltrated, my trust violated. I felt cornered, yet I also realized I needed clarity. So you've been living here for a week? I asked, voice shaking with a mix of disbelief and outrage. Observing my routines, my things, my life? She nodded slightly. Yes. I wanted to make sure you'd be comfortable. Your mom trusted me, and I wanted to honor that. I felt a mix of relief and anger, relief that her intentions weren't malicious, anger that my mom had orchestrated this behind my back, and that Mia had been quietly integrating into my life without permission. My apartment was mine, but it didn't feel like mine anymore. And yet, a strange curiosity stirred within me. Could I actually coexist with this stranger? Could boundaries be drawn without everything collapsing? I paced the apartment, heart racing, staring at the rooms that had felt safe just hours ago. Every corner, every detail, now carried the shadow of Mia's presence. Could I forgive this? Could I reclaim my life without destroying the delicate balance my mom had tried to create? And even if I could, did I want to? And then, Mia said something that froze me in place. I've been learning your habits, but I also know when to step back. The question is, will you let me? Her words hung in the air like a challenge. I had a choice to make, reclaim my apartment by force or navigate a new, uneasy coexistence with someone I barely knew. I stared at her, uncertainty clawing at me, and realized that nothing would ever feel the same. The answers had arrived, but the consequences were just beginning. My apartment was still mine, or was it? The real test was only starting. The apartment was quiet now, but it didn't feel like mine. I sank onto the couch, heart still racing from the morning's chaos. Everything had happened so fast, knocking at 6 a.m., a stranger claiming my space, my mom orchestrating behind the scenes, and my landlord awkwardly standing by. And yet, I was still here. Alive. Present. And somehow, I had to make sense of it all. I looked around the apartment, at the kitchen counters Mia had reorganized, the neatly labeled pantry, the bookshelf perfectly aligned. It was unsettlingly perfect. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity. My life had been quietly infiltrated, and I hadn't even realized it until the morning of reckoning. But another part of me felt a cold knot of betrayal tighten in my chest. How could my mom think this was acceptable? How could she assume I'd be okay with someone studying my routines and moving into my home without consent? I dialed her number one more time. This time, she picked up. Her voice was light, casual, unaware of the storm she had caused. Emma, I just thought Mia could help you settle in, make things easier. I wanted to scream, to tell her that life wasn't something she could orchestrate for me. But instead, I took a deep breath and said, Mom, this isn't okay. You can't just decide things for me like this. She sighed, a mixture of apology and stubborn pride, and I realized that sometimes love could feel like control, and control could feel like betrayal. Mia, meanwhile, had been quietly observing, not interrupting. She had her reasons, her own logic for being here, and though I didn't fully trust her, I could see she meant no harm. Still, my apartment no longer felt like a place where I alone held power. It was shared now, in a way I hadn't consented to, and that realization was terrifying and oddly exhilarating. I sat back, letting the adrenaline fade, and considered my next move. Could I coexist with Mia? Could I reclaim my home without turning it into a battlefield? Could I forgive my mom while holding her accountable? Questions tumbled over each other in my mind. I didn't have the answers yet. But one thing was clear, nothing would ever feel the same again. My safe space had been challenged, my trust tested, and my boundaries rewritten. And as I glanced at Mia, who was quietly arranging a stack of magazines as if she belonged, I realized the hardest part wasn't the intrusion, it was learning how to navigate the new reality she represented. Could I share my home with someone who had quietly lived in my life without my knowledge? Could I rebuild trust while maintaining control? The answers were coming, but they weren't simple. I leaned back, staring at the apartment door, heart still pounding. One thing was certain, my life had changed forever. And the question lingered in the air, uncomfortably and insistently, what would I do next?